Stop. Don't touch that mouse. I want you to look at the battery icon on your phone or laptop right now. You see that little bar filling up with green juice. You think that is energy. You think energy is some kind of glowing blue fluid that flows through wires like water through a pipe. You are completely wrong. That little icon is the biggest lie in your life. It is a biological illusion, a convenient interface for a brain that evolved to hunt gazelles, not to understand the universe. In the physics of 2025, and I mean the real hard physics that runs the cosmos, we have absolutely no idea what energy is. We do not have a picture that comes in multiple pixels. It is not a substance. It is not a fluid. It is not a ghost inside the machine. If you want to understand the single most important law in the universe, you have to be willing to admit that your intuition is a liar. You have to be willing to look at the world and see nothing but numbers. Let's take this apart. We have this picture in our heads, right? You eat a burger, you get energy. You put gas in the car, it has energy. It feels like a commodity. It feels like stuff. We treat it like a bucket of water that we can pour from one place to another. But ask yourself this, if energy is a fluid, what is its container? When a baseball flies through the air, where is the energy holding on? Is it painted on the surface? Is it inside the cork center? If you cut the ball in half, does the kinetic energy spill out on the floor? Number, it vanishes. Because it was never there in the way you think there is there. The concept of flow is a metaphor that has outlived its usefulness. It is a crutch. And today, we are going to kick that crutch away and see if you can still walk. I want to play a game, a mind game. This is the only way to really see it. I want you to close your eyes. No, really, do it. Or just stare at a blank wall. I want you to imagine a room. It is a messy room, like a Pixar movie set. In this room, there is a kid named Dennis. Dennis is a menace. He is the bad boy of physics. And Dennis has blocks. Specifically, he has 28 identical, indestructible, super heavy blocks. These are his treasure. They cannot be broken. They cannot be melted. They cannot be vaporized. They are absolute. Now, imagine Dennis's mother. She is the observer. She is the scientist. Every morning, she comes into the room and counts the blocks. 1, 2, 3, 28. Every single time. The system is closed. The walls are solid titanium. Nothing gets in, nothing gets out. The count is always 28. This is your baseline. This is the comfort of a simple universe. Feel that stability. Hold on to it, because Dennis is about to ruin everything. One day, the mother comes in. She counts 1, 2, 27. Panic. The law of the universe is broken. A block is missing. She searches the room. She looks everywhere. Finally, she sees a lump under the rug. Now realize this. She cannot see the block. She cannot touch the block. The rug is glued down. But she is a scientist. She doesn't give up. She takes out a ruler. She measures the height of the bump. She calculates the volume. She does the math. And the math says the volume of the bump corresponds exactly to 1 block. So, she changes her formula. It is no longer just number of blocks. It is now number of visible blocks plus volume of bulge divided by volume of 1 block. 27 plus 1. The sum is 28. The number is saved. We call this potential energy. But notice something terrifying. She never saw the block. She only saw a geometric distortion of the environment. Next week, it gets worse. Dennis is escalating. The mother counts 26 blocks. The rug is flat. Where are they? She looks at the window. It is open. The system was not closed. She looks outside and sees 2 blocks on the lawn. But wait, we have to account for this. If the system expands to include the lawn, the number is still 28. But if we define the room as our universe, the energy dropped. This is the first lesson of thermodynamics. You must define your box. If the box leaks, the number changes. But if you make the box big enough, if you make the box the size of the entire cosmos, the blocks can never leave. They just move to a different room. But Dennis isn't done. He pulls the blocks back in. He locks the window. He is preparing his masterstroke. This is the part where your brain is going to revolt. Imagine the mother comes in. She counts 25 blocks. No bumps in the rug. Window is locked. But there is a toy box in the corner, and it is locked tight. She cannot open it. But she is clever. She weighs the box. It is heavier than usual. She subtracts the weight of the empty box, divides by the weight of a block, and boom, 3 blocks. The math works. 25 visible plus 3 inferred by weight. Total, 28. But then, the dirty water. This is the hardest level. Dennis has thrown a block into a bucket of dirty, opaque, soapy bathwater. She cannot see it. She cannot weigh the bucket because it is bolted to the floor. But she notices something. The water level has risen. Archimedes would be proud. She measures the rise in height. She calculates the displaced volume. She adds that term to her equation. 25 blocks on the floor, plus height of water times area, the sum, 28. Now, visualize this interface. I want you to see the room through a high-tech HUD, like Iron Man's helmet display. But instead of targeting enemies, it is targeting terms. When the mother looks at the blocks on the floor, the HUD says kinetic terms. When she looks at the rug, the HUD overlays a grid and says gravitational potential term. When she looks at the dirty water, it says thermal term. The room is filling up with floating equations. The formulas are getting complicated. It is not just counting anymore. It is mass times gravity times height. It is 1/2 mass times velocity squared. It is specific heat capacity times temperature. The air is thick with algebra. It is a mess. It is chaotic. But amidst all this floating text, there is one thing, one golden number, glowing in the center of your vision that never ever flickers. The number 28. But here is the horror, here is the reveal that I promised you. In the story of Dennis, we know there are real blocks. We can imagine them under the rug or in the water. But in physics, there are no blocks. I repeat, there are number blocks. If you look closely at the potential energy under the rug, you don't find a hidden substance. You just find a mathematical relationship between the object and the earth. If you look into the heat in the water, you don't find little energy nuggets. You find atoms jiggling faster. The blocks are a metaphor we invented to keep our sanity. Nature does not have hidden blocks. Nature only has the number. The number is the only reality. The list of terms, heat, light, motion, electricity, mass, they are just different columns in an accountant's ledger. The universe is not a factory. It is a spreadsheet. Let's push this to the limit. Imagine Dennis throws a block so hard it approaches the speed of light. The block gets heavier. The formula changes again. Einstein steps in with his chalk. $E makaitu, $2. Mass itself is just another hiding place for the blocks. If Dennis manages to destroy a block completely, if he annihilates it with antimatter, the block disappears, but a blinding flash of light appears. The HUD goes crazy, measuring the frequency of the photon. And if you add up the energy of that light, it equals the mass of the missing block. The blocks can turn into light. They can turn into heat. They can turn into the stretching of space itself. There is no stuff that remains constant. The only thing that remains constant is the abstract sum of this chaotic list of calculations. So why? Why does the universe care about the number 28? Why not 29 tomorrow? Why not 0? This brings us to the most beautiful idea in physics, time translation symmetry. It sounds scary, but it is simple. It means the laws of physics do not care what time it is. If you do an experiment today at 2 p.m., and you do the exact same experiment tomorrow at 2 p.m., you get the same result. The background machinery of the cosmos is static in time. A mathematician named Emmy Noether proved that if and only if physics doesn't change with time, then there must be a number that remains constant. Energy is conserved phi b gauge. Time is symmetric. It is not a magical fluid. It is a consequence of the fact that the rules of the game don't change halfway through the match. Now, look at yourself. Look at your hand. You are a biological machine. You are a dentist. You take in chemical blocks, food. You hide them in your cells, ATP. You convert them into motion blocks when you walk. You convert them into heat blocks when you sweat. You are a whirlpool in the river of 28. You are not generating anything. You are not consuming anything. You are just shuffling the blocks from the chemical pile to the heat pile. You are a chaotic agent of transformation, and you feel like you have free will. You feel like you are using energy. But in the grand ledger of the universe, you are a zero-sum game. You are just a mechanism for moving the number from one column to another. This is why it is so hard to understand. Our language fails us. We say, I am tired. I have no energy. That is a lie. You have plenty of energy. It is just locked in your fat cells or radiated away as heat. We say, we need to produce more energy. Nonsense. We need to release energy from coal or wind into electricity. We are trapped by words that were invented by farmers, not physicists. We are trying to describe a four-dimensional mathematical symmetry using grunts and squeaks evolved for finding berries. The confusion you feel, that is not because you are stupid. It is because you are a primate trying to read the source code of reality. So, what is the takeaway? When you look at the world now, I don't want you to see stuff. I want you to see the accounting. I want you to see the blocks turning into numbers. The sun is not a ball of fire. It is a massive ledger entry, converting mass blocks into photon blocks. Your car is not a vehicle. It is a converter of chemical blocks into kinetic blocks. And everything, absolutely everything, adds up to the same number. It is a constraint. It is a rule that binds the gods. There are no blocks. There is no fluid. There is only the math. And the math is eternal. The math never lies. And that, my friends, is the only truth we have.